So I describe myself as an ethnographer of futures. So I do ethnography, and normally, ethnography is considered with often maybe just kind of people. But I'm interested in the everyday practices, which is what ethnographers do, but everyday practices of how the future gets imagined and made. It's ethnographer of futures. So I'm interested, and I work with how, at the moment, particularly energy futures get made. And I've been working for the last 10 years in the islands of Orkney off the northeast coast of Scotland, and I've been collaborating with organisations, companies in Orkney, and thinking about how they do their futures, how they think about their futures, what are the practices by which they make their energy futures.
And you said that you also have a background in physics, and like how do you think, like how do you combine physics and humanities, like how do they go together, or do they?
Well, my physics degree as bachelor was a very long time ago, but actually for me it gives me a way to have a language to talk and think technically with the companies, organisations and people I collaborate with. So I'm working for the moment with those involved with, say, marine energy, so that's making electricity from waves and tides. And that's a highly technical, complicated process. You've got to do hydrodynamic modelling of the seas, and having from a long time ago, a technical background enables me to kind of have conversations and understand that the technical world is not in any way separate from the social humanities world. They're always kind of going together. So it's for me, it's thinking through how that's not so much an interdisciplinary approach, but the fact that these two are always combined. And if you, for example, want to get a wave or a tide energy machine in the water, on the grid, then you've always got to know and understand and work with both social issues, with the local communities, with the fishers, with the stories of the sea, as well as understanding the engineering constraints as well. So you've got to be able to understand all that together in order to get your energy future. So all of us who are involved in doing research, and all of us, whether you're studying, whether you're a bachelor's student all the way up to PhD or a full professor, we're all writing our research. Writing is a literary practice. We all have a particular style of writing. We're already doing and thinking through a literary practice. We're all professional writers when we write. So for me, it's thinking through that is a particular way of communicating what we do. But that might not be the only way. The form and style of writing that we choose changes what it's possible for us to say and to communicate. So I'm interested in what if we think about different styles of writing, because it changes what it is possible for us to say. And because I'm interested in futures and how we make futures, then for me writing is a future making practice that, as I said in my talk, writing is performative. So if we think about different styles of writing, we can actually write different futures. We can think in different ways. So the poetry you talked about, which I do, the sort of speculative fabulation, the science fiction that I write, and also working with other people. So I collaborate with people in my field site who are also writing speculative fabulations and futures, all the rest of it. It's not just what I write, it's what other people write. And then we can kind of share our futures that way. We can write futures that we might not otherwise be able to write. I think, I talk a lot about edge. I think that's a very useful word, because certainly in English there's this double meaning. There's both geographic edge, places on the edge geographically, but also in technology we talk about the cutting edge, or the leading edge, or the bleeding edge, which is a little bit more difficult. And I think those can often be the same. And there's been a lot of scholars whose work has sort of explored how places at the edge where you might have either limited resources, or more specifically, you have to take greater care with your resources, because you don't have an infinite number sort of like sailing in on a ship or being sort of sent to you. Often, certainly in places I've worked at the edge, people have to be much more aware of their infrastructures, of transport or of energy. They don't necessarily take everything for granted. You can't just go down the shop and buy whatever you want. So I think that though places there often mean you have to be innovative in the sense of being able to, or you have to improvise. Lucy Suchman, who's a scholar's work I find very inspirational, she talks about artful integration, that is integrating, working with improvising with what you have to hand, because you can't just buy one fresh off the shelf, right? But you work with it artfully, you work with it with care to create kind of new things. So I think it's about, and this is discussed by many people, how we think through and how we redefine what counts as innovation, rather than it thinking just shiny objects coming from kind of nowhere. Actually, all objects have to be designed. And you know, when we're creating something that might seem new, it might not necessarily have to be shiny. It can be cobbled together from a bit of a tractor engine or a motorbike engine or some kind of spare part. All right, and we can make new things from what we have to hand.